So throughout our Compass protocol video, we went through a series of movements that were one, just used as a dynamic warm-up, and then two, they were used to determine if we have any type of restrictions going on within the hip complex or other areas that are going to limit range of motion or mobility at that specific joint. So these banded distractions that we're going to go through today are all about finding and identifying those areas where we are limited in range of motion or mobility, and then using these as temporary fixes to correct that. It's not going to fix it forever. It's probably only going to fix it for a few hours maybe, but using these banded distractions will help us to get more range of motion and more movement out of that joint. So the first one that we're going to do is within our Compass protocol, we had this movement here. Our internal rotation of our hip side to side. Again, if we made any mental note, one side being a little stickier than the other, then what we're going to do is tie a band around a rack or a pole, moderate resistance, on my foot that I felt our side on. It's going to go right around my ankle. So if I felt restricted on my right, then I'm going to start on my right leg here. Here, you can take a small medicine ball, or you can use a foam roller. That works too. Or you can even just use your hands here, like so, fists together, and then put right between the knees. That works too. I'll sit up here. I want to get resistance so that my leg wants to be pulled in that direction here, and I'm not going to let it go. So what I'm going to do is bring that foot in, squeeze that foam roller or my hands or that ball for 10 seconds and hold, resist that pull from the hip. Once I have it there for 10 seconds, I'm then going to slowly let it drag towards the rack, about the midway point. I'm going to hold that for 5 seconds. I'll then let it pull even further so that my hip is getting very internally rotated, and I will now hold that for 5 seconds. As you can see, I'm shaking because my hips are resisting this right now. And then after that, we will then do 5 reps or so, dynamically moving in and out. After you do that on each side, you can immediately test that internal rotation again and see if you have a little bit more out of it. As you can see, I have much more internal rotation in my hip than I did previously just from doing that simple exercise right there. So this next one we're going to use if we're limited and getting in a deeper range of motions with that knee joint. If I'm having trouble or getting sticky here or in this one within our Compass protocol, if I feel like I want to be really straight with that leg and I'm having trouble getting that flexion through the knee. If you're an ACL person, I'm sure you're pretty familiar with this one. Put that band, heavier band right around the back of the knee. I'll go split squat, and we will let that pull us. Knee over toe, keep the heel down, gradually getting into longer ranges of motion with this knee. This one we're probably going to go about 8 to 10 reps or so each side. With every rep, we want to get pulled further and further. We want to keep our chest up. Flex and extend. Push that band away from you on the way back, and then let it pull you on the way down. This next one's going to be used that if we're feeling tight in our hip flexors. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with your classic couch stretch. This is just going to be a variation of that. So a time when you want to do this is if we're doing our A-frame marches at the very end of our Compass protocol. You're noticing that when you drive your knee up, you get a little hunched over, and we get that tuck of our pelvis underneath us. That's going to happen from the hip flexors being pretty tight. So if we can loosen those up a little bit, it's going to improve pelvic positioning throughout the rest of our training session. How we're going to set this one up is using our same heavier band that we just did in our Spanish squat. We'll put this one right behind the back of our hip, right underneath the butt cheek. Set up like you would for a couch stretch. And from here, I'm going to let this band pull my hip forward and shift towards that rack. So now I should feel a good stretch through my hip flexor at this point. From here, I'm going to take my opposite side hand and I will reach back and to the side and then coming back. A good cue on this is if I squeeze my glute throughout this whole stretch here, then I'm going to get even more of a stretch through that hip flexor. So if I go hand up, squeeze my glute really hard on that back left leg, push my hips forward, and then get my lean. I can get a couple of deep breaths, and that should stretch me out all the way through these obliques, into that hip flexor, and into that rec fem. Go through it more dynamically, just get a few second holds with each rep, maybe go 8 to 10 reps each. Now with this banded distraction, if throughout my compass protocol I felt limited while doing my 90-90 reaches in my external hip rotation, then that's where I'm going to want to use this one. So if I felt sticky here, one side or the other, then what we're going to want to do is, for starters, grab an incline bench. This can be done just right on the floor if mobility permits it, but you're going to want to probably start with an incline bench and this one. We'll take our moderately heavy resistance band, just like we've done for our last couple. With this one, I'm going to go right up inside of my inner thigh, right in the hip crease up here, and then I'm going to set up like a pigeon stretch. So first thing I want to take note of is my shin straight and in line with that wall. I don't want to be bent out here. I want to have a straight shin on that bench. I want to get a long back leg here. That band is pulling me backwards, of course. Tall chest. I'll take my opposite side hand and reach across. Sink low into this. I don't want to think about pushing my knee out into here. I want to think about dropping my center of mass low as I reach. And again, just like on the other two, I only want to go for a second or two. We're going to go more dynamic, not static stretching here. 8 to 10 reps on each side of this one. And then you can go back and retest your external rotation again if you'd like. For our final banded distraction, if I felt limitations in my dorsiflexion when I'm trying to push my knee at the wall, if that heel wants to come up, or if I'm sticky from one side or the other, and my knee does not like to get over my toe very much, that means I'm limited in this motion here. Okay, if I'm limited in that, then what we can do to temporarily address it would be to once again take our purple band or moderate band that we've been working with our last few. I'm going to put that right around my ankle and then put my foot up on the bench. Here, we're just pushing our knee over our toe. I'm keeping my back heel on the surface of the bench the whole time. I'm pushing it as far over as I can. I can get my chest over my foot a little bit more and really push into the end of it and just resist that heel from lifting up. For limited dorsiflexion, that's going to limit our ability to perform a lot of different sporting tasks. So it's important that if we feel restrictions here, we make note of it, because it's going to determine a lot of our accessory type work done for sure. And as all, 8 to 10 reps should be. So those are our banded distractions that we're going to use after our compass protocol to temporarily improve any of our mobility restrictions that we might be having. So we don't need to do every single one of those every day. We just want to take mental note throughout our warm-up that if we're feeling restricted in one area, then we want to make sure that we address it with these types of movements, because if we can get into deeper ranges within that joint and we can load it a little bit better, it's just going to pay off down the line. We're going to get a lot more out of each session. So you don't need to spend time on this every single day unless you'd like to. But making sure that we're doing these types of things to get a little bit more out of each joint is going to go a long way throughout each session.